we got a call that January that we were going to lose. We were going to be shutting down iron making at the end of April. And iron making, steel making, we're all going to get laid off.
A lot of those men that came in there are educated in that mill. Maybe in the real world, they don't have value, but because they come out of high school, a lot of them. But their life experience is irreplaceable.
Very proud of Michigan. Dana's been around. I also like it because we happen to win here. So
we thought when Trump decided he was going to
keep the mill alive,
protect the steel industry, the coal miners, the auto, and it just never appeared.
He came to this area and he said, if you elect me, you'll see 2.5 times, you'll see the steel industry, you guys will be fighting off orders. That's what he said. Check it out. 3 years later, where are we now? These guys are out of work. They elected that guy and he lied.
We just ended a nightmare known as NAFTA. They took our jobs for a long time.
Yeah, the nightmare continues, don't it? For guys who are getting laid off and, like I said before, who basically have no skills other than in a steel mill, their nightmare is just beginning.
If you get in a car accident, that cage, we make that steel. We make that family safe in there. And that's the pride that these guys and women have when they're making this steel.
Heidi joins us now from Ecorse, Michigan. And Heidi, tell us more about what's going on there in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, Allison, the president may be talking tonight about the land of opportunity, but in 2016, he was trying to appeal to men like those who I talked to earlier this week, calling them the forgotten men and women of America, saying that he was going to bring back a bygone era of industrial glory. It was places like this, where this steel complex behind me used to employ up to 16,000 employees in its heyday. This year, Allison, is going to be idling a huge portion of that, completely shutting down its steel and iron making business. And many of those workers, 1,500 this year alone, are going to lose their jobs, Allison. And they say that this came as a surprise, not only because the president made all of these promises about steel tariffs and cracking down on unfair trade practices, but because this company had taken unusual measures, or the company, actually the city, to give the company tax credits to stay here. So it comes as a big blow to this community that's going to have a lot of impact, not just on these steel workers, but on all of the surrounding businesses, on the contractors who service the steel plant, on the companies where those contractors shop. This is a big disappointment for this community, Allison, that is going to have big repercussions for families who live for generations around this steel mill.
So, Heidi, speaking of repercussions, how might this affect the November election?
Right. So Trump won Michigan by such a hair. It was something like 10,000 to 11,000 votes, Allison. And there were many of these white working class voters who had voted for Obama twice and then shifted over to President Trump. It is these same voters who are seeing that despite the promises that were made about bringing back this era of prosperity for the middle class, that their sons and daughters are not getting the same opportunities that they had, like the gentleman that we featured in this steel mill. And so when you look at the polling right now, Joe Biden does have a definitive lead over President Trump in most polls, but a word of caution there, because Hillary Clinton also, according to the polls, had a lead over over candidate Trump at the time. And so the Democrats say that they absolutely cannot take this state for granted, but that this message that President Trump sold to so many of these working class voters has turned out to be a disappointment, at least in communities like this in Ecorse.
Heidi, thank you so much for bringing us the latest from that community and the laid-off steelworkers there. I know it's been a very tough time for them. Thanks for sharing their story.
You bet.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.